Here I am in my Unreal scene. I brought in my props, my column, my gladius, my weapon rack, my shield. I built some parent materials and I made instances off of those. Let's bring in an object that's going to have more than one material assigned to it. So I'm going to come here to 3ds Max and here's my banner. Now I've already previously at the end of the last tutorial where we built the banner, we combined them all into one mesh. So if I hit F4 to see edge faces, when I click on it, it's all one mesh. If I orbit around and go to display and turn on back face color, we'll see that there's nothing on the back side. Now we know that's not going to be a problem because inside of Unreal we set a two-sided material for our shield. So before we export this out and bring it in, we have to do one last thing. I'm going to come to Modify, go to Unwrap UVW. I'm going to change the channel from map channel 1 to 2, and I'm going to move what I have. So I'm going to click Move. I'm going to open the UV editor, and I'm just going to click Pack Custom. I'm actually just going to grab everything and just re-peel it. All right, so it's going to peel everything. There it is. It has a lot of dead space, which we know by now that just happens. We could try taking some of this stuff. Let's turn on Select by Element. I'll grab these larger chunks and rotate those 45 degrees. And pack it, see if they fill it up a little more. Not really. Might as well just leave them like this. So we'll right click, convert to edit poly. Now, it's always good when you're doing that map channel stuff to have the visible mesh displayed because you will see if you break your base UVs doing that. All right. So now let's go ahead and we'll do File, Export Selected, and we're just going to go to that same folder there with the rest of the wood elements. I'm just going to call this banner. We'll do my initial _banner. Let's save that. And now over in Unreal, in that same props folder, we're just going to import. And so let's go down there. All right, so there's my banner, and I'll see its textures, so I can probably just grab. So you're going to need that packed AORM, your base color, your normal, your opacity, and then the mesh itself. So we'll import those. Unreal remembers our previous settings, so if we did that right the first time, we should be okay. All right, remember we open up our AORM and we turn off that sRGB, resave that. Now we're going to come down here. We can open up the banner and we can just plug the wood in. And if we accidentally drag it in the wrong spot, that's okay, because we can always just override it. There's also a clear that resets it to the default here. Now I could take this, I could right click, duplicate it, and call mi_banner. And then open that up, and I can plug in my banner textures. We just need to move around so we can see them. So I bring in my AORM, I bring in my base color, I bring in my normal. Oh, the banner I'm using here is from previously, back when I was still calling them AORM, but I've been trying to drop the A, so it's just an O for occlusion as I move forward. So I can save this, and if I go to my banner mesh now, and I assign that material, you'll notice if I hold both buttons and then just hold the left to orbit, there's nothing on the back side. So we can open this up, and if we remember, we made one of these parent materials that had a 2S. That's for double-sided, so we can plug that in. And then hit save and go to the banner, and now it shows up on both sides. All right. It will be backwards though, just so you know. So if you have writing, we'll have to do something else. Now, one thing we're missing here is the opacity. So what that means is we're going to need to make a new parent. So I'm just going to right click on this. And because we're doing the opacity on one that needs to be double-sided, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to right click and see duplicate. And we're just going to do an underscore. I'm going to insert an O for opacity just in front of the 2S. All right. So if I open this up, there we go. what we need to do here with our material selected, we find the material domain, and underneath that blend mode. And in blend mode, we're going to come down to masked, and that's going to open up opacity mask. And in this case, what we can do is we can just plug in that opacity. And we just plug the RGB in there. Now, if we go and turn this to a box, we can see the edges. We can actually see through it. Oops. Now, that's really confusing you. You can go ahead and just plug in your other textures. We can replace the ones that are here. Normally, what you would do when you're setting up parent materials like this is you would use some sort of very simple, generic, small textures and plug those in so you could see them instead. Sorry, I keep trying to drag it up there. There we go. So now you can see sort of the opacity. More important than that, if I just save this, you can see it once we do the override. There it is, the opacity. Plug that in. There it is. And so I save that, and if we look, there it is. There's our banner. It's got the opacity. It's looking really good. Yep. No problems with that. If we go to UV, go to UV channel 1, there's our light maps. And everything's good. Like we're ready to go with this. We can just click on this, drag it in here, orbit it around. If you want to make collision for it, you can do that, right? Of course, it's just if we open it up, collision, add box simplified. Now, the box is always going to do the total bounds. If you want, you could press spacebar until you get to this gizmo. This is scale. We can actually scale that in, and you can turn off the scale snap. We just move that over. You can even turn off the, turn off the grid snap. So now it'll just stop you at the pole, and you'd still be able to run through the banner. It is possible in Unreal to set up a physics simulation so you run through the cloth on there, but that's outside the scope of what we're trying to cover in here. So now we just save all. Now we have these various props that we could drop in here. All right. And you could reorganize this if you want. There's certain things you could do. Like I could duplicate this one called mi_gladius, open that up, and then plug my gladius materials in there, or textures. Gladius, sword, packed, and then this should just be the basic version of the material. And I could save that, open up my gladius, and just plug in the mi gladius into it, and then save it. And then I can delete this, the m_gladius, the original material one, because I made that parent. I don't need to have more than one. So there you go. So we're kind of organizing it. And there's filters as well if you want to just see your, they're called static meshes. All right, those are your actual objects. You could change that to just show textures if you want, or materials, or there's options for just material instances. The other way to do it is if you just type in M and hit enter, it'll show everything with M, but what I want is m_. And so now you'll see all those parent materials. If we do mi_, that'll show you all the instances of it, right? And so these are less expensive to actually have running in-game, and also makes the process quicker so you're not always building custom materials. So that's the process for bringing in and setting up a material that has opacity like that. So now you have a double-sided, you have a regular parent, and you also have a double-sided with opacity. Make sure you save all, and you'll want to take a snip of that as well. Let's clear out my filters. So yeah, we'll just hop in there and take a snip of that, turn that in.